really going to try and do one-on-one readings unless it comes to him. So if there's something you want to know, go ahead and post it. I'll look at the chat board and I'll start asking these questions and following along. So
And so in the meantime, Mark, if you don't mind me sharing a quick thing,
yeah, go ahead.
just really quick. So I've been doing mediumship for, man, 2.5, almost 3 years, so not super long. But to all of you parents, I've done over 1,200 readings. I've read hundreds of books on mediumship, spirituality, NDEs. That? Seriously, during the meeting? All right, I'm sorry.
Books on parenting?
Okay, hold on one sec. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
No worries at all. And I want to let everyone know that Daniel John is the father of, I believe, 3 children. And he is not only going to be speaking to us, he has another class that he's going to be giving after this meeting. So he's constantly working. He does so much out of the goodness of his heart. And I think that he's going to also be giving us some tools to be able to get through the holiday season, which is always very difficult. I want to just let everyone know that because of the fact that I don't have Irene with me, I didn't record the first part with the mission statement, but I started as Mark was speaking. So I think that that'll be fine. So I do apologize for that. It's the first time ever that that's happened, but of course, I've been just a little bit worried about everything that is happening with her and Tony, but it looks like it's going to be fine, which is wonderful. So again, thank you for being here. And Daniel, so cute. So I think that everyone here understands how important it is to be able to help our kids when they need it. I see that there are lots of great questions in the chat box already, Mark. So maybe
Yeah, I'm scrolling down now past all the,
yeah.
I'm scrolling down past the intros.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. My wife is like keeling over in pain. I don't know what's going on. So I hate to do this to you guys, but Mark, I'll email you. She's not the type of person that like wants me to cancel. So we might have to go to the hospital. I'm not sure. So I apologize and I got to go tend to her. So I will update you guys as soon as I can. Okay.
Well,
okay.
Please, we will put a lot of healing energy towards you, Daniel John. I am sorry. Oh my goodness gracious. And I'm so sorry to everyone who's on here. But you know what? It would be really wonderful if maybe, Mark, you could say something to everyone because we haven't heard from you in a very long time. Mark is the author of some incredible books. One of my favorite books that he's written is Soul Shift, Finding Where the Dead Go. And that book was written not too long after the passing of his son, who also passed on a mountain. He passed on the McDowell mountain range of an asthma attack. And Mark wrote this book, but I also would love for Mark to tell you a little bit more about his background because his father was a psychic medium to the stars, very, very famous, not only here in the United States, but over in the United Kingdom as well. So would you be willing to maybe tell us a little bit about your journey, Mark? That would be wonderful.
Absolutely not. No, I'm kidding. I'm happy to. So a lot of the folks on here probably heard my talk before, one way or the other, but even the way that we met was rather synchronistic. So yeah, my father was Richard Ireland, or Dr. Richard Ireland. So I grew up with someone who had these abilities at a very high level. And so unlike most people, even though I'm pretty left-brained and pretty rationally minded, I knew from an early age that this stuff is real and that life goes on after physical death. I just saw these kinds of things on a daily basis in my household. And so it wasn't really a question to me. Growing up, you know, we all want to be our own people, and I didn't want to be my dad. So even though he said he thought I was very psychic and so on and so forth, I didn't really go down that path. And I went to college and got a degree and got married at a young age. And then went into the business world. We had two boys. Steven's the oldest. He's now made me a grandfather. And then Brandon was our youngest. And fast forward, you know, I'm pretty much cruising along in the corporate world and doing well. but not really connected to my past or the spiritual side of my life, probably as much as I should have been, and out of balance. And when Brandon was 18, he went on a hike one day in the McDowell Mountains in Scottsdale behind our home at the time. And I felt really uneasy about it. And while I was a worrying parent, like a lot of us, I had a stronger than usual feeling, like a premonition. I really didn't want him to go, and I tried to talk him out of it. But again, he's an 18-year-old young man, and he said, "We're going, Dad." And there was no turning him back. And that was really the starting point for how Soul Shift came to be. You know, it was he went on this hike, and then later that day we got an emergency call. We came back, and he was. We were told he had been passing out on the side of the mountain with some buddies of his who had been climbing with him. And later that day, learned that he had passed, although we really didn't know the cause of death. It was a few days after that. Now, by this point in time, my father had been gone about 12 years, but my uncle was still alive, and my uncle had very similar abilities. And I talked to him early on, and he said, "Let me know if there's anything I can do for you." And I just said, "Well, let me know if you get any kind of a message or any confirmation from Brandon." I just wanted that for my own comfort. And he connected with me by cell phone while I was in the mortuary 3 days afterward. And he had told me that, you know, he had tried to meditate the night before and didn't get anything. But that morning he got up, and my dad actually visited him and told him that he was there to greet Brandon when Brandon had crossed over. And he shared the nice message, which is that Brandon said we were the best parents he ever could have had, which makes you tear up and feel good. But then he also shared the cause of death before the autopsy was done. And we later validated what he had shared was exactly the cause of death, which was that his blood oxygen levels had decreased to a point to cause cardiac arrest. And it was really due to a severe asthma attack. And again, at the time of his passing, we didn't know the cause. No one would speculate, and we couldn't find out officially until after the autopsy was done, which was about a week later or thereabouts. And then that just kind of thrust me back into looking at this whole field that my dad had been in and that I'd grown up with, but not paid that much attention to. The next thing you know, I'm meeting with some top mediums from around the world. I'm going to the University of Arizona Energy Systems Laboratory as a test sitter for a Discovery Channel feature, for a blinded reading that was statistically measured for accuracy, and a number of wonderful things like that. So that's really Soul Shift's kind of my journey after. It goes back in my past and then takes you forward to me kind of reconnecting to my past and my dad's legacy, and then giving you the healing messages I got and the validations that I received from these various people, and then learn, you know, about my ability individually to connect to, and some things that told me I had the ability to have a direct connection with Brandon, just like I know Elizabeth has with Morgan. Maybe different ways, you know, but one of the earliest ones that happened was, I would think it was just maybe even before I talked to my uncle. It was just a couple of days after, and I had a determination. I was very determined to make a connection of some sort. So I sat into a darkened area. It was actually my closet at the time. I turned off the lights so it would be pitch black. And I sat there trying to meditate. I'm not a great meditator, but this particular time I was able to pretty much get my mind to go blank. And then after that, a short time later, I saw an image of Brandon's face go across like my forehead on the inside, like an image that I saw in my mind's eye, and it was him smiling. So I felt like this sense of peace and happiness and joy with him. And then right after this, I saw a cross with an oval loop at the top. And I'd seen those, but I didn't really know what they symbolized or meant. And so I then had to go research myself to find out, well, what did this thing mean? And it turns out it was an Egyptian Ankh, which is the oldest cross of human history. And the lower portion symbolizes physical life, and the oval loop at the top symbolizes eternal life. So through a code I had to decipher, I basically was told my son is happy and joyful, and he's now entered eternal life after physical life. So I think you'll find that if you try these kinds of things through meditation or through other connecting methods, sometimes you get symbols, sometimes you get images, sometimes you get feelings, and don't discount them. It's very easy in this the world we live in, which is so focused on the material and the five senses to overlook the more subtle things that come to us, but they can be the most powerful too.
Well, Mark, I have lots of questions in the chat box. And I know that initially a lot of them were meant for Daniel John, but I know that you would be fabulous at answering a lot of these questions as well, because Mark also has studied mediumship, as you know, and he's very, very well connected, obviously, with Brandon, but also with other kids. And so I would love to have you address some of these. For instance, Alicia's asking, how can I get to a deeper connection with my daughter? Could you possibly, I know that you talked about meditation, but just let her know and let everyone know some of the methods that you use to be able to stay connected with Brandon?
Yeah, I think one that will work well for a lot of people, where you're too, like, if you get too much in your own mind and you start thinking too much, you can kind of block that. So one thing that can work is do it while you're asleep, and maybe before you go to bed at night, send out kind of a prayerful invitation and a request to have that meeting. And then ask also to be able to remember it when you wake up, because sometimes we have some things happen, or some people think they don't even dream, and that but they are dreaming, they just don't remember the dream after they wake up the next day. It's actually been proven in sleep labs and things like that. But I would say that's one method, is to, before going to bed, set the intention for that visit, ask for it in a prayerful way, and ask to remember it. See what happens. I haven't had it work every time for me, but sometimes it has. And a few times, one in particular, I had the most vivid visit. It had to be an out of body experience, because it was more vivid and real than waking reality. So that's one method. The other, and whether you call this meditation or not, is maybe just sit quietly, just with the intent of having that connection. And then think of your child. You can either look at a picture of them, a photograph maybe, for a while, and then close your eyes, or just go in and picture yourself in a quiet area, a favorite place maybe that you guys went to, whether it was on a trail or by the beach or whatever, and just visualize being there and having someone come up to you, and that person being your loved one, and see if you don't get something out of that. That's kind of a common one that I know, like Suzanne Wilson has used before. The other thing you could do is you could also check on websites for, like, Suzanne Kiesman, Suzanne Wilson, John Holland, Maureen Hancock. A lot of these mediums have courses or information, or even YouTube videos on different ways of trying to do this. And for those who have really struggled and haven't found any other way, there's another way through EMDR. I know a Dr. Alan Botkin accidentally stumbled upon this. It's called IADC. And it's an induced after-death communication. He stumbled upon it while working with PTSD sufferers who had been Vietnam vets, who had suffered immensely and not been able to get over the trauma from their time in Nam. And he had breakthroughs in this, and part of it involved rapid eye movement, which is kind of like when you're going to sleep too. But he'd get them into this altered state where they would actually visit with and see, in some cases, people that they'd killed in battle and were forgiven by those people. Another story I recently saw, which is phenomenal, I'm going to put it in my next newsletter, a video of it, is where he had a man that had adopted this Vietnamese girl that was about 10 years old. And he had actually talked to his wife about bringing her home when he returned and adopting her formally. And it was all going to happen, but she was shot and killed one day, and he was just devastated from this. Well, he got this EMDR session with Dr. Botkin, or one of Botkin's associates. And during the course of this, he saw his daughter, the girl that had been 10 years old, the Vietnamese young lady, and she was now fully grown and radiant and in a white gown. And she told him that she loved him and missed him, and provided validating information. There's a couple I know in the Bay Area too, whose son passed. And this is a really remarkable story, not to ramble on, but this is just too good to let go. It's Linda Sanchez and her husband. They had heard about this process. And so they made an appointment with someone in the Bay Area who was a practitioner. And so the husband went first, and it took him quite a while to get into this, but he did eventually get into it. And he saw their son, and the son said, well, I'm glad this is working for you, Dad. It's not going to work for Mom. But maybe you don't want to tell her that, but you do ask her about the color code book. And he didn't know what that was about. So he comes out of this, and then his wife, Linda, goes in, and it doesn't work for her for whatever reason. But afterward, he says, was there something between you and our son about a color code book? And her jaw dropped, because before he had passed, they were reading this book called the Color Code Book, and it was about different personality traits attributed to colors. So that was a pretty compelling validation. So those are a variety of things you might consider that could be helpful to you.
That's wonderful. And I wanted to just ask you, I have a lot of people in the chat box who are asking about worrying that their children, when they passed, suffered, and also just wanting to be reassured. I know that you can reassure them, Mark, more than anyone. And I'd really like for you to just tell them about, with all of our near-death experiencers and everything else that we've learned, a little bit about what happens when someone transitions.
Yeah, it's interesting. This question came up because I was actually just watching a video with a Dr. Mary Helen Hensley on what's the name of this? Forbidden News. But you might Google Forbidden News, Dr. Mary Helen Hensley. Her story is quite remarkable too. But in regard to this, she had a near-death experience. She's an exceptionally intelligent woman and well-educated, and grew up with really traditional values and everything. But she had a severe accident. She immediately left her body and could see down below what was happening and everything. But she said she actually left her body before the impact. She knew the impact was about to happen, and she'd actually left her body before that. She felt no pain at all. Really, the only pain she said she felt was later, when it was determined that, she really needed to come back to finish her work, that she wasn't done yet. And she had her whole near-death experience and had the life review and felt the intense love and all those things. She came back to her body. When she re-entered her body was when she felt the pain from the accident. But in her explanation, I've heard this many times, people will leave their body immediately. So if the body, may still technically be alive, but the soul has left and isn't in that mode of suffering.
That's beautiful. I want to just clear this up too, because I hear this almost every meeting. We have a parent asking, if a child takes his own life, his or her own life, does it take them longer to get to heaven? And I would love for you to answer that and reassure this mom. That would be wonderful, Mark.
Yeah, I think the thing is, none of us want anyone to make that choice, but sometimes it happens, and people have mental issues, or they're just very traumatized, or there's emotional pressures that make them feel like that's the only escape. And I would say, they have the same path that they had before. They may have to get through those things and their lessons in a different way on the other side, but I don't see them as being viewed any differently or any less positive than anyone else who passed through some other means. Naturally, we want to have people stay here whenever possible and give them the support while they're here so they don't make that choice. So I would just say that.
That's beautiful. I think it's important also to know that every single one of these kids is happy, healthy, and whole. And if they are going through some spiritual healing, which it doesn't necessarily mean that they will be in spiritual healing if they cross over or transition by suicide. But if they are so surrounded by love, in a huge cocoon of love. And so never, ever worry that your kids are not in a wonderful place. They are, and they are all friends. I also have someone asking if you are connected with your spirit guides and how you were able to do that, and maybe if you could explain spirit guides. Can you do that for us,
Well,
Mark?
there's a lot of different theories on this. Some mediums say that they connect direct to the souls of the people that you're trying to talk to. And I think, like Molly Morningstar is a friend of mine, and she says that she doesn't really talk about spirit guides. Others like Suzanne Wilson do. So if you go, for those traditionally raised, we'll think of guardian angels, maybe that's what a guardian angel is. It's the same thing, that, we're at this plane of existence and we have helpers who maybe see the bigger picture. And maybe before we ever got here, they were aware of our plan and had agreement, to help us try and stay on that path. And maybe they're the ones that help us when we have intuitive thought or an idea pop in that steers us for what's right or what's not so good of a decision to make in following our path. So, spirit guide could be, on one realm, probably people who lived in this world before and have passed on, and maybe just more experienced or further along the path. It could be our ancestors. Or they could, if you believe in angels or the angelic realm, maybe they're, like a guardian angel type entity. But, a lot of the mediums do talk about spirit guides, and they feel like that, that those are their team, I guess you'd say, on the other side. And that team helps them with communication, but also in their day-to-day life in making decisions that are best for them to stay on the path and fulfill their purpose.
That's very well said. I was wondering also, Angelica is asking, can you speak to how children who passed when they were in utero are able to communicate with us? Her son did, and she struggles with ways to find that he may be communicating because she really doesn't know what to look for.
That's a tough one because, you'd think, well, the child wasn't old enough to be able to speak or whatever. But I think the thing is, if you do buy into the idea that we existed before this life and or reincarnation, that soul existed already and was just basically adopting into a new form at that time, maybe there's some method there. The other thought I had, and these are just my thoughts, if you have another loved one who's passed that is an adult, maybe they're able to help facilitate that, because the communication on the other side, from everything I've read, is more telepathic. They don't have a voice box necessarily. So if it's telepathic communication, it's much more efficient. You see how little children get very frustrated when they don't have the language skills yet, just like I do trying to speak French with Elizabeth. So if I don't have the vocabulary to say something, but if I'm telepathic, it's easier to get what you want across. Just like my 2.5-year-old granddaughter, Lily, she gets frustrated when she's trying to tell us something and we don't get what she's trying to say. But if you have a telepathic communication stream, it's probably not as difficult as it seems here in this world.
Well, we have questions about how kids learn how to communicate with us. And I just want to say, before I ask you the question, that they are all teaching each other. But I know that they're taking classes just the same way that we are all together learning how to communicate with them. It's a two-way street. People are asking if we have to raise our vibration to be able to be on the same kind of vibrational energy wave that they are on. Could you maybe speak to that, Mark?
Yeah, medium John Edward, who's pretty famous, he talked about this idea that really, and I've read this from a number of them and talked to a number of them about this, but basically we have to elevate and they need to lower theirs to kind of meet in the middle. And that's why I like my father would talk about the ebbs and flows of his ability. Sometimes it was really strong and other times it would wane a little bit. It was always there, but sometimes it was just unbelievable. So I think, maybe it has something to do with that. And to raise your vibration in this world, really you think about stilling your mind, being in a good place, eating properly, getting exercise or walking and being in nature. The converse to that would be, You're in a high stress job, you're traveling a lot, you're not working out, you're eating like garbage, you're very distracted, you have pressure coming from all sides, you're hooked to your iPhone, you're doing all this stuff. So if you want to raise your vibration, the way that you do it is by eating well, getting plenty of sleep, taking time to meditate or have quiet time, walk in nature, all those kinds of things are really what would help you do that. And then setting that intention, like I talked about before, for that kind of visitation. Because I would assume it's work for them too, just like it's work for you to do all that. It's got to be work for them to get that through to you as well.
I think that's exactly right. And I think it's so interesting because people are talking about their ears ringing. That's something that started happening as soon as Morgan passed. And I especially have ringing in my ears when I'm in a meeting like this. Like, for instance, right now, my ears are just ringing like crazy because there's so many kids here. But I think that you, first of all, have to know that it's not tinnitus, that there's nothing wrong with you, that it has to do with working on getting that frequency in the right place. I want to add to what you're saying by saying that I hike all the time in nature. When Morgan passed, I went to the highest mountains possible around where I live, and I spent time. I had terrible vertigo before Morgan passed, and then after Morgan passed, I had no vertigo. But doing that, yoga as well. I don't ever want to tell people how to eat, but I've been a vegetarian since I was about 13 years old when I lived in India, and I've stayed that way. And I think that eating healthfully is very important. But if you really want to raise that vibration, eating things that are good for the environment and humane is also something that is very important. And oh, everyone's saying that their ears are ringing. I love it. That's so much fun. Well, listen, don't ever worry about it anymore. It might keep you up at night, but it just means that your kids are trying to speak to you, which is really nice.
It's like the opening two verses in Peter Frampton's song, Show Me the Way. He said, show me how you're feeling. There's ringing in my ears. So any of you who know that song, go back and listen to the first two verses.
That's beautiful. But also, I would love for you to tell a little bit more about how incredible your dad is and was. I say is because he's still right here, but his performances, what exactly he did. If you could talk about billet reading and just explain about that, that would be wonderful.
Sure, and that people could actually go see it themselves if they'd like to. If you go to my website, there's a link there to see some of the videos that are back from like 1969 to 71 era with him on the Steve Allen show. But, back in my dad's era, it wasn't like today where people are open to mediumship as much or psychic phenomena and studying it in labs. Well, they did. I mean, Duke University had the parapsychology lab, but there were very few of those, and they were pretty much looking for just telepathy and things like that, not necessarily looking for consciousness survival after physical death. But because of that, back in that day, my dad, and he learned this methodology, and it was really his kind of staple way of doing it, was he would take 10 strips of white Johnson & Johnson medical tape over his eyes, and then 3 black blindfolds, and then more tape. And then you would write questions on a piece of paper called a billet, which I don't know if it's pronounced that way in French, but it means piece of paper in French, does it not? Billet, or I don't
Yes,
know.
it means ticket, actually.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's where it came from, the word billet in English. So people would write a question on there and, maybe sign their name and send it up. And then he would go through these papers and he would pick them up and usually give you your first name, last name, and tell you many things beyond what was on the paper. In some cases, people didn't even put their name, but he would give it to them anyhow. He would often, I'd say in secular venues, this was pretty much focused on psychic phenomena and talking about their future and jobs and relationships and all this kind of stuff. And he would share first and last names, and he would give serial numbers on bills that people would send up. And all kinds of things like that. And then usually more in a church environment where he had an interdenominational church of his own or non-denominational, He would then, share spirit messages with very specific information about loved ones who had passed, names, and what the relationship was and things that they had to share. So, but again, picture's worth 1,000 words. So if people go to markirelandauthor.com, again, markirelandauthor.com, you will find a link on my homepage that says "See Dr. Richard Ireland in Action." Click on that. It'll take you to a number of those videos so you can see for yourself what it was like and what he did. But again, once you see that, and knowing Steve Allen was actually a hardcore skeptic. So you see his reaction on this show and how he is, seems pretty compelled and convinced by my father there. And that he and some of the people on the show even tried to trick my dad. And my dad got to the bottom of it pretty quickly and astounded Steve Allen. So that would give you a feel for what it was like. And then, he did readings just like other mediums too. But I think the billet readings were the most common thing that he did. And again, that was because of that day and that era. You had to present it as entertainment first, and then you could maybe open people's minds that much, and then gradually they'd open. But today it's a little bit different.
The veil is getting thinner, which is wonderful. But I wanted to just ask you, I have a question here from Kathy. Is our lifespan pre-planned? So this is a little bit about soul plans. Could you go into soul plans and just maybe give some ideas about what your thoughts on soul plans are?
Okay, so some of you have heard Robert Schwartz talk, and I agree with him partially, but not fully. So I think from my perspective, before we come here, that we do have a plan and purpose for this life, this physical life, and there are things to help us refine our souls and grow. That's the bottom line, through experience, and to love more and love more fully. That's the bottom line from my perspective, why we're here and what that plan is all about. Can we get off track? I think so, yeah. But it might be like a wide highway, or many different highways that eventually you could take this bypass or that one, but hopefully more times than not, you're going to end up at your destination where you intended to be. I don't necessarily think that everything's that happens was planned. That's just my opinion. I don't think murders are pre-planned. I'm not, I just think there are certain bad things that wouldn't be planned, because I don't know if there's necessarily spiritual growth of them. Somebody could argue about a karma thing or whatever, but the way I kind of take the position of, I don't have all the answers. I'll make my determination what I think is right. And then it might be a general thing that's not defining every little point of it. So I would just say in general, I think we do have a plan and purpose for our life, and that ultimately, whatever that is that was set up, we'll know we're on our path because things kind of go right and we end up going in this progression that feels right to us. And if we're off track, we feel a little out of kilter, and we can think about what we can do to get back on that path. And ultimately, it's about soul growth through experience and learning to love more fully.
I think that's beautiful, and I agree with you. And I think that the most important thing to think about when we're talking about soul plans is that no matter what, our kids are happy, healthy, and home right now, just as Susie, your wife, says, and we're still in school. And no matter how they transitioned, they did not suffer. And it's true. I've heard this over and over again from near-death experiencers, that the only pain they ever had, the only pain they ever experienced, was when they get whooshed back into their bodies. It's like, oh my gosh, this heavy thing, this huge suit, it's like a space suit that I have to wear again. And sometimes there's pain. Here's Daniel. How's everything going for you?
Good. She either thinks it's appendicitis or a ruptured cyst, because she used to be in the medical field. So my mother-in-law's here, and she took some Advil and she's waiting it out, and we're either going to go the hour or we're not. So she said, go downstairs and do what you got to do for a little while. So here I am.
Well,
Now, this is not the ideal situation for you to do this. So if you need to beg off, don't worry. We're actually going through a lot of answers and questions on our own. So feel free, if you want to go back and tend to her, or if you want to engage, it's up to you.
I wouldn't mind, I don't want to interrupt, but I just really wanted to get off what I was going to say, is that from all my readings I've done, and I've done a lot of them, the overwhelming theme, especially for our kids, is that they're with us, like, and they're available and they can hear you. Like, you'd be shocked at the overwhelming like validation and like awareness and availability that they have to you. You don't need to go to a medium for it, especially during the holidays. I can imagine it would be super, super tough, but I can tell you from all my experience, I firmly believe that they can hear you. They're with you. They're just in a different form. And I know I don't mean to sound that like cliche or insensitive, but I've done like literally over 1,000, well over 1,000 readings, and I probably have done 400 to 500, maybe almost half. I'd say about 40% for kids who have passed, and they always, always come through. Always. Actually, there was one exception. Actually, the other day was the first time ever where a child, but she had some other things we needed to talk about to get to the point where she was ready. I have a good friend of mine who lost a son, and it took him 9 years to come through. So if and when it happens, consider it a blessing, but you don't need a medium to do it. You can connect to them at any time, anywhere. It's just about paying attention and trusting in the signs. Because a lot of times as human beings, we like, oh, like, was that really them? Or, yeah, their song just played on the radio, but what are the chances of that? So we'll always try to like discount that, but believe me, they can hear you. So I'll field any questions. I don't want to interrupt what you were
I
doing.
just want to say, first of all, everyone is saying, family first. Seriously, take her. So they're all worried about you. So don't.
There's a chance in the family. So she's good.
Okay.
Mother-in-law is up there, and I'm here if you need me.
Well, okay, if you're here for now, that's wonderful. And I also just want to tell you, thank you for your beautiful, comforting words to all of us, Daniel, which is another thing that someone's saying. Well, Nadia's saying I can speak for me. I am fine if you leave. All the best with your wife's health. I think that it's important. Everybody's saying hugs to you, Daniel. You are just so giving to everyone else. And I think that for us, the really exciting thing, not only with you, but also with Mark, is that these skills, these abilities came to you later in life. And so you didn't trust them in the beginning. You also were you had a very strong religious background. So maybe if you could just reiterate that and explain how they go hand in hand for you, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, so the first thing you mentioned is trust, and I think it goes not only for mediums, but and I always say that we're all mediums. We all have the ability to be the in-between between the spirit world and the human world. But the trust is the biggest thing, and it could be a bird or a butterfly or a dime or a penny or a cardinal or a feather or whatever it is. I always tell people don't stretch it, but they will communicate, and you need to trust it. Being raised Catholic and being not only a saved Christian, but reading the Bible a lot and having faith, I always heard that it was against scripture to, communicate with spirit, but I never really thought much about it. So when I came out in June of 2018, it wasn't until 4 months later when I got an email from a former coworker that said, you're not channeling the kids, it's the devil and it's fooling you and you need to stop. And so I was like, well, wait a minute. I remember hearing that, but what's she talking about? So she listed all these verses, 99%, if not 100, that were in the Hebrew Bible, the Hebrew scripture, or I call it the Old Testament, however you want to word it. And so as I read them, I originally thought, well, I need to quit because I've always used the Bible as a guide for my life. And if this is wrong, I can't do it. But then there was this other side of me, this like calling and saying, and I remembered I had done 4 months of readings where there was an abundant amount of love and healing and accuracy and smiles and feel good. And I used to say, well, this is the devil's work. It's doing a hell of a job, helping people feel better and renewing their faith and connecting them with their loved ones. Like, that's interesting to be the devil's work. So I said to myself, I can listen to 2,000 plus year old, text that was written, or I can really look at this text, including the Bible and other books, and my heart, and really do what I think God wants me to do. So what I did was I reread the whole Bible audio. I bought the audio version of the Bible. It was 41 hours long. And I listened to the whole thing from Genesis to Revelation. And while doing that, reading scripture, reading books about scripture, praying and asking God to lead me to books with information that I never really believed in, and trusting that he'll show me what I need to understand so that I can help people understand. And so it was a long process for a while. And then then when I met Mark, I don't know how it happened. It was divine, I'm sure. When I was going through the whole certification process, and it was over a month long, probably a month and a half. And and you know the process, at least I don't know if you do, but there's 5 or 6 different sitters and you don't know anything about them. And they can only limit their answers to yes and no, which is actually quite difficult because sometimes there is a little bit more engagement that needs to happen. And the whole time I prayed, I said, God, listen, if this is the work you want me to do, pass me. If it's not, fail me. I don't, this work is kind of tough, because as a medium, we deal with, and this isn't a feel bad for Dan thing, but I said to God, this is quite difficult work, but if you want me to do it, I'll do it. But if you don't, fail me and I can do whatever you want me to do. I was totally submitted to God, totally said, okay. And I did the readings and I passed. And that was like my sign to like move forward with this gift and realize it was a gift. And then I reread the New Testament, which is a lot of the teachings of Jesus, and read a lot of, every book there I possibly could. And there's actually a lot about spirit communication and prophecy. I always tell people 13 of the 27 books in the New Testament were written by Saul Paul, who met Jesus in spirit. He was inspired to write all the things he was writing. So he met Jesus, but there are people nowadays that can actually channel Yeshua, which is the soul, or Yeshua, whatever you want to call him. Jesus is available to us now as he was to Saul Paul, 2,000 years ago. So I started reading newer books that were inspired. I started delving into Course in Miracles, and I'm actually reading a phenomenal book called The Second Coming of Christ. And it's a phenomenal book. So if you really look into scripture and look at the translation between Greek and the translation between Hebrew and the Bible, I firmly believe, and I made a 20-minute video about this on YouTube, that communication with spirit is not only possible, but it's encouraged to help us hear. Half the Bible, if not most of the Bible, was written through spirit communication. So I just find it interesting that certain beliefs, fundamentalist mainstream Christianity, some people believe that it's against the Bible or against God, and I feel quite the opposite based on everything I've looked at. And that's my, evaluation of that.
That's beautiful, Daniel. And I wanted to ask, Kay is worried because you had said something about the fact that it took 9 years for one son to come through. I think there must have been something more going on there. Possibly, maybe the mom wasn't ready, but I've never really heard. Morgan came through 2 days after he passed, so I would love for you to just reassure everyone that this isn't something that's normal, and if we're open to receiving, we definitely will be getting messages much sooner than that.
Yep, absolutely. I didn't mean to dismay anyone or have you wait 9 years. This is a good friend of mine. Her name is Paula. She used to work with me at my previous job, and her son Jordan passed away, I think at 11 or 12 years old. And when I was hanging out with her before I knew I really had this gift, I still would always want to connect with him. I would try, even though I didn't know it was a medium. Maybe I just knew then, I guess. And I wouldn't get any thing from him. And then even after I kind of came out and she heard about it, we would have conversations and he wouldn't come through. And the one time I remember talking to her about a year before, I think it was a little over a year before, I was the one that he chose over there to pass on the message to her. We had a nice reading. It was in my car. It was out of the blue. I didn't even think it was going to happen. But a year before that happened, I was talking to her and she asked me to connect to Jordan. And I said, the only thing I'm seeing is a turtle. I don't know what that means. The only thing is I just feel, and this is before I knew I had the gift, that you're not ready, and it's a slow process to get to the grief part to where you can get a reading. And I said this to her before I even knew about my gift. And then about a year later, he came through when I was in the car and he kept talking about sprinkles and something else. And it was just, we both cried. And, that time took 9 years, but I've talked to parents where the child, I think the closest it's been for me as far as when they reached out to me was within a month. But it could be the next day. I've actually channeled not children, but souls that are alive but in comas, or they're unable to speak. So it's all different. But I think the closer you are as a parent to understanding and trusting, and this is hard to say, but this is just what I've come to believe, that God's got a plan, and there's no mistakes with him. There's no soul that leaves this world without God knowing and the soul knowing that it's the time to go. And it's very hard on us as people to lose significant others, especially for the group here, to lose children physically. But I think, and I've had to tell this in a lot of my readings, the child will come through and say, this is part of the plan, kind of, don't you remember? And I'd say 60 to 70% of the time, the parent either had a feeling or they had a conversation or there was something that kind of led them to understand that this was going to happen in this lifetime. That doesn't always make it easier, but sometimes it just takes the edge off to know that this was something bigger, something agreed upon, as crazy as it sounds, and that there are no accidents. So it
Well,
won't
and
usually take that long.
I think that a lot of us have had kids tell us before they pass that they know that this is going to happen. And sometimes it's very confusing when they say that. Morgan told me the day that we were packing in his room that he wasn't going to be coming home from China this time. And I didn't believe it, but I told him, listen, you don't even have to go over. You've got all the credits you need. Please just stay here. And he said, no, Mom, I'm going to be fine. And he did pass before he was able to come back from China. But I think that so many of us have had those experiences with our kids telling us because they know, but it's not anything that's fearful. They don't say it in a fearful way. I knew from the day that Morgan was born that he was not going to be here long, but I didn't have the same feeling with my other children. So I guess that it is something that deep inside of us, a lot of us are aware that this is something that was actually destined to happen, which makes things easier because it makes us realize there is absolutely nothing that we can do about this. No matter what we think we should have changed in our day or our plans for the future, or we can't hold on to that guilt because it was going to happen no matter what. And so thank you for saying that. I appreciate it.
So I see someone here in the middle of my screen, and it was actually what I was going to say without knowing this, but I had a reading recently with someone on here. I can see you. Hi, you know who you are. And Robert Schwartz wrote a phenomenal book that this person told me they already have in their reading list. A book about, it's called Your Soul's Plan. And if you haven't, as a parent, you have not read it, it is just a book that just needed to be written. I got goosebumps even saying it. So there's a few people on here that would really benefit from that book. And it talks about that we actually plan the blueprint of our life before we even get here. And there's these major events that are just going to occur. It doesn't make sense on a human level, but the book is one of the best books I've ever read, and it just seems pure of heart. So if you haven't read it, it's Robert Schwartz, Your Soul's Plan. And there's a follow-up book called Your Soul's Gift. And I think in one of them, they talk about the sensitive topic of death by suicide. And there's a lot of information in there that if you're not ready for it, it may seem a little off-putting. But if you really pray and trust that he's speaking the truth, that and I prayed before I read that book because it came up so many times. I read the synopsis of the book and I was like, man, this is a little over the top, because they actually channel Yeshua. They actually channel the soul of Jesus. So at that time, I was like, I don't know, it's kind of seems a little crazy, but I'm going to trust it because I felt really good about it. But if you have not read it, read it. It pretty much says that we plan our lives before we get here. When people pass, when we pass, it's all this, free will exists within the destiny window. So we can choose to react how situations happen, but some things are just written. Some things are just supposed to happen. And those souls leaving the earth, including ourselves, is part of a bigger plan that's often destined.
That's wonderful. We've had him speak here on helping parents heal, both in this group and in the UK group. And awesome. A lot of people have read his books. We also have people who have taken his workshops. He did a workshop on a Saturday and Sunday, but also I just wanted to let everybody know that if books are difficult to read, which they are sometimes in the beginning of this grief journey, Rob Schwartz is on several of Craig McMahon's spirituality series, Life to Afterlife. So he talks about all of this. The one that he speaks the most in, Mark, is the second one, the one after
Your Soul's Gift.
Okay. No, not that Your Soul's Gift. That's the book, but I'm talking about the movie that Craig had made. I can't think of.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were still talking about Robert Schwartz.
Well, I am, but he's in Craig McMahon's documentary series, and he speaks a little bit in the one, Mom, Can You Hear Me? But he also speaks in the second one, and I can't It's on the tip of
Um,
my tongue. It doesn't matter. If you look up the Spirituality series by Craig McMahon, you'll be
So
able
I
to.
died, what now, or something like that?
Yeah,
Or
I
what's
think
next?
it.
So I died, not what's next? I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll
I
look it up
died.
while I'm doing that.
Yeah. Okay.
He
But
also, I don't want to interrupt, but Robert Schwartz also has his books on Audible, and I'm pretty sure he reads them actually. And my book just came on Audible too. So Audible is really good to like listen to. In fact, when I say I read hundreds of books, it's literally I listen to them. But Robert Schwartz's book is very good to listen to. Very good.
thank you. That's perfect. Yes. Um, and a lot of people are just asking, they're confirming that they already knew that their child was going to pass as well. They're also, let's see, asking how to get a private reading with you. Daniel, John, could you tell us, because I know that a lot of people are very interested in hearing that. Do you have a waiting list right now? I would assume you do, but is it very difficult to schedule with you?
So that was the wife. She's got the thumbs up. She feels better. She's walking around. So
Okay,
she
good.
thinks it was either a ruptured cyst or something along those lines. So yeah, so I do kind of have, so I have a wait list, but I haven't even been able to get to the wait list because the way my calendar is set up. I'm booking into September of next year, August, September. But because I just lost my full-time job, this has opened up my calendar. And so I've been doing 2 to 3 readings a day, hence why I look so tired. But I tell people that book the earliest appointment and I will get you in as soon as possible. My website is danieljohnmedium.com. I keep my prices pretty affordable. I try to make them, I personally don't like charging at all, but I try to make it so that it's like, okay, I'm going to get this value from this price that he's charging. And I think a lot of people will agree with that. You can look at the reviews, but so you can do August, September, October of next year, and I'll probably get you in before April is what I would say. So I'm trying to do like 2 to 3 a day every weekday while the kids are in school. And I'm just catching up on my calendar, and the wait list I have is about 50 or 60. So I haven't even gotten to them yet. So I'm still learning all this. I just literally lost my job 2 weeks ago. So I'm still like being a full-time medium and figuring it all out, but the website's the best way to do it. And I will get to you like ASAP.
Well, that's wonderful. And I would assume that people will be able to get in much more quickly then. And I am so sorry about your job, though. Cindy's also asking, I felt that I was always going to pass early, and my son and I share a birthday. After he passed, I don't feel that way about myself anymore. Is that perhaps because we share a birthday? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I'm getting a little caution flag here, so I just have to be careful. When they show me something about like be careful what you say, I get like this orange flag that waves in my mind. So because I was gonna say something, but I may know it. So hold on, let me just make sure I get the right information. Okay. So I think to be honest with you, sorry for the loss of your son. I think that I don't think that the birthday is a coincidence. Your soul may have realized that the one who was born on that day could be leaving, but I also think it's a lot of the mind and overthinking it. They don't give us like I never predict deaths or anything like that, but there's a possibility that the birthday or the birth sign or the soul that was in your life that could have been that, but also maybe just thinking too much about it. So maybe that's not the best answer. The information I originally got, I didn't want to say because it didn't feel 100%, but I would tell you there's a possibility the birthday's the same. The passing of that person who was born on the day is probably what you felt. And I think when you really tune into it now, you'll realize that that was all part of the plan and that's why you felt that and that you're still going to be here and have a lot to do. That's what I would say, whoever you are.
Pretty amazing, because she also added that her mother shares the same birthday. So all of those
Crazy
together
3
is just
generations of the same birthday. Wow.
really amazing. And her son also shares.
Hey, Elizabeth, I think I found that video. Do you want me to do a screen share?
Of the video. So this is of
The one you're talking about with Robert Schwartz, it has Crick McMahon, Robert Schwartz, JVP. Is that who's on it?
well, yeah, it's kind of long though. I don't know if we have time to be
Oh,
able
no,
to.
I just meant to show the screen so they could see the
Oh,
name.
sure. Yeah. What's the name of it then?
It's called Life to Afterlife, semicolon, Tragedy by Design.
Tragedy by Design. Yes. Okay, that's great. And yes, if his books are on Audible books as well, it's great because people will be able to tragedy. I have to spell the right way. Tragedy by Design.
I'll just show what it looks like. It's right here.
Sure, that'd be great. Thank you.
Can you see that?
Yes, perfect. So this is free on Amazon Prime, just to let you all know.
Anyone who wants to do that could just do a quick screen grab.
And so this is with Robert Schwartz will talk a lot in here about soul plans. Obviously, James Van Praagh is wonderful. I actually had a quote by James Van Praagh on Helping Parents Heal Today. But yeah, so we're coming up on the hour though. And I know that Daniel is going to be teaching today, or this evening, right after this. So I wanted to thank everyone for being here. Thank Mark for being a pinch hitter as well and doing a fabulous job of it. And thank all of you for coming. And I know that the holidays are a very difficult time for everyone, but if there's anything that we can do to help, please let us know. We also have, I think I just froze up. Did I freeze up? We also have our caring listeners, and we have a group of 26 of them who speak 7 different languages. So if you are having a hard time, please go to our website. There's a drop-down menu for caring listeners, and they're all available free of charge. So they're parents who have gone just a little bit further down this road and who want to reach a hand back and pull others forward. So we're not professional counselors, but we do know what you're going through, and we would love to be able to help. And we obviously have lots and lots more questions. I'm hoping that Daniel John, when he has a little bit more free time, will be able to come back and answer more questions next time, if that's okay. But we do want to.
I can do a few more now if you want. My class is until 9, and she gave me the okay, so I don't want to leave you hanging. If anybody has some questions, feel free for me.
Okay, I would love that. And Mark, I have to go and find out about Irene.
I understand.
So if you can,
go ahead. I'll take it from here.
You can maybe take over. And thank you all for being here. I truly appreciate it. You are a co-host, so you can stop the recording as well, Mark. And thank you, Daniel. I am so appreciative. And good night, everyone. And I'll let you know what happens with Irene as well.
Do you know where the chat left off, so I can find where to pick up?
Saw that, Jan. I saw that.
Lots and lots and lots of questions. My goodness gracious. I think that
no, I can't get the chat open right here. Hang on.
Let's see. There are a lot of okay. I think that it would really be nice to have Daniel John maybe channel a little bit from our kids to let us know how we can better make it through the holidays as well, if that's a possibility, before we tune off. Do you suppose that might be something you could do for us?
I can answer some of these questions, at least for now.
Okay.
What's the last one you did, Elizabeth? What was the timestamp on it so I can find it?
Well, I kind of go back and forth because it depends on what we're talking about. I try to find something that, let's see, can you ask my child why I can't hear her would be the next one, I guess.
What's the timestamp on that one?
So that one is 1804. So it just came in, and maybe if there's some more people coming into the meeting as well, if Daniel John could speak to that, why perhaps she's not able to hear her child and the messages that he's sending.
So just as like you all with different mediums, we all have different abilities, skills, gifts. If you watch Tyler Henry, John Edward, Thomas John, whatever medium you watched, everyone has their own like abilities. There's claircognizance, there's clairalience, there's all kinds of like abilities. So what I would tell that parent is, instead of asking, to hear, ask how the child can connect with you and pay attention to how that would be. And I think it has to do with our genetic makeup. It has to do with certain abilities, certain probably laws that we're not familiar with. But instead of, and I tell this to people when they come through for a reading, sometimes the people they want to connect with, it's very rare, but usually the people they want to connect with come through. But oftentimes other people will come in as well and they're focused so much on that one person that they're missing all the signs. So I would use that analogy to the trying to hear your person. Ask how the best way, and I'm a big believer in Matthew 7:7, Luke 11:9. Not only does it have to do with God, but asking spirit. Ask and you'll receive, but don't ask in the way that you want it. Ask in how the God thinks is the best way for it to happen, right? So into your person, please show me the best way that you can connect with me, and I'll pay attention, as opposed to, and I don't think this person does this, I think it was a very good question, but in other words, to make a short answer, hearing physically or even with your spiritual ear, you may not be able to. So you're focused so much on that, you may be missing some of the other signs. So ask how, and then pay attention. That's what I would tell you.
Yeah, I just add on to that. If Andrea meant like why she can't personally directly without a medium hear from her child, it's maybe the manner in which you're expecting to hear. Maybe you're expecting to hear it auditorially. And most mediums that have clairaudience, they actually don't hear through their ear in an auditory way. They get an idea that pops into their mind. So it's more an idea or a thought. And clairvoyance might seem more of a visual kind of cue, image. So if it's one of those, and that's the tough thing for a lot of us too, we want to connect with our kids directly, but then we don't trust it because we think, oh, that's my imagination. I just made that up. And that's why a lot of us end up going to mediums, because they don't have that bias. We know it's kind of, we're not worried about that as much. But if you learn to trust that, and you learn to just feel when it's them and appreciate that and enjoy it, that's when that healing can come through. Even though the rational part of you is always going to probably say, wow, how do I know that's not my imagination? Well, you come to learn more just from, you'll be able to differentiate more over time. There's times when I'll just get a knowing and it'll just hit me and it's like, oh, that's that feeling. And I know this just happened, or this is right, or whatever. Like, it's goofy, but I remember I was sitting in the Arizona Diamondbacks baseball stadium once watching a baseball game, and I'm sitting next to a guy, I'm like, he's going to hit a double right now down the left field line. The very next pitch, he hits a double down the left field line. He's just baffled. I don't know, it's a goofy little thing, but I just knew that was going to happen. And the feeling was different than just a normal imaginary feeling. It's hard to describe, but I think mediums that become good probably refine that feeling over time so they can better differentiate between their own thoughts and those that come in externally. So I probably rambled on too long. Let me find the next question.
Well, that was great. First of all, second of all, that's me taking things too literally. I'm a very literal person. I see here, I think here, but you're very right. And it's just paying attention. So the answer is kind of the same. It's paying attention to the signs and trusting that you're going to get them. And when I teach my class at 9 o'clock, trust is the number one thing. I tell my students, trust, protect yourself, and ask permission. Because I know that those are students of medium. These are people who want to get into mediumship. But it's important. The number one thing is trust, because they will communicate you. And Mark, you said it best. It's almost illogical. Like, how in the world could that happen? But it comes through, and you just have to trust it. And that's how I've been able to grow, is by trust.
So Cheryl asked this question. I'll preface it by saying I think she's implying the idea or the concept of there being many different planes or levels of existence, or like St. Paul said, the seven heavens kind of thing. But she says, Daniel, we don't get as many signs as we used to, or we once did. Has my son moved up in levels? ? And that's from Cheryl.
Yeah, so I always tell people someone could always say yes or no, right? I'm an evidential medium, so I ask for permission. But I don't think that that's necessarily the case. But from what I've understood, there are jobs that we have on the other side. There's things that we're busy doing. I also think that there's divine timing. And there may be a window of time where maybe the spirit thinks you need to grow in a certain way to be able to connect on a different level. So I don't think there's a black and white answer. In fact, I don't think there are many black and white answers. There's a lot of gray in the world. In fact, it's mostly gray, not gray in that perspective. But I would say that if he hasn't communicated to you, I don't think it's a level up thing. At least that's me personally. I think it's a timing thing. And a lot of the timing has to do with us, where we are spiritually, because from what I come to understand, there is no time in the way that there is time here on the other side. It's literally one moment. Eckhart Tolle talks a lot about that. It's now, and this is the moment, because there really only is one moment. And again, that's illogical too, but most spirits that come through share with me that the time is really irrelevant over there.
It's not actually illogical. It's just everything we frame from our knowledge is based on this physical universe. And the only reason there's time, or our perception of what is time, is because of space and the expansion of space. That's why there's time, or our way of measuring the passing of events. If you take that all away, there's, it's not the same dynamics. Anyhow, we're starting to get some questions here that are more personal in nature, like asking for things. I don't know if you want to go down that path, or you want me to just move on to more general ones.
Whatever you feel inclined to, Mark.
Okay. Well, I would just say if you get an immediate response to this, feel free to answer, but if not, I'll move on. Kathy Kenny wants to know, is my son with his sister or my sister? So I guess she's just looking for an affirmation. If you get any gut feel to that, if not, I'll just keep going on. I'm going to look for the next one while you're seeing if something comes
So
in.
not to avoid that question, and I don't know who this is for, and I don't know if you guys are open for a reading, and I don't want to take it too long, but I do feel someone coming through, if you don't mind me just sharing.
Yeah, sure.
Did something with a T name, so I don't know if it's Trevor, Taylor, or whatever, and I have to talk with the number 14, so 14 will be important. It could be their birthday or your birthday, or 1-4, could also mean January 4th. They keep referencing Sesame Street, so I keep seeing like Big Bird and Oscar, and like I even see Snoopy, so it's something to do with cartoons, but it makes me feel like it's either stuffed animals or the actual cartoons. There's something about the cross. I would think you wear it, or they were, or you have it, or you just did something with it. And there's actually something about marijuana, so I don't know if you just started smoking weed, or they smoked weed, or it was a big deal. And I also have to talk about the A name, who's also in that same family, who may be a sister, or the person may be the A name. So that's just a little example how, like, when I do readings, or if I'm in a group reading, group setting, I think some of you have experienced that before. That's how it works. So who's the T, the 14, the cartoon thing, the cross, the weed, and the A name?
Okay, I've got cartoons, Trevor, 14 name, marijuana, also an A name, number 14, cross. Was there something else?
I think you got it. T like Trevor, A like,
Okay.
Amanda.
So Teresa says everything except for the 13, but you didn't say 13, you said 14.
Yeah, 14.
So Teresa, you said that everything there fit except for the number 13. Just write me. Oh, all of it. 14 son birthday of it. Wait a minute. So we
What
got
about
two
the
people,
T, Sharon?
Sharon and
Yeah,
Sharon and
Sharon
Teresa
Thomas.
both said it's a fit. So Sharon said even the 14 fit.
If I want to bring
Sharon Martin. Okay, I'm gonna take Sharon off of hold here, and we'll see if this is for her. I have to find her first. There's only 150 people to go through. This shouldn't take long.
No, we're down to 98.
Oh, okay. Scrolling through trying to find her. Oh, there she is. Okay, Sharon, I'm gonna unmute you. She's dying to talk, I can tell.
It's like she's in San Francisco.
Okay, I said, okay, she's unmuted.
Hi.
Go ahead, Sharon.
Hi.
Hi there.
Hi, Sharon.
So why don't you interact with Daniel?
Hi, Daniel. How are you?
Pretty good. So you think this is for you?
Oh, yeah. All of it.
So give
Do
me
you want me to tell you?
Yeah.
Okay. Thomas, or Tommy, is my son. He was born on the 14th. He got in trouble with marijuana. I'm shaking. My heart's pumping. Sesame Street. We named all our animals Sesame Street. Abby is the dog. He just loved her. We have Oscar. We have Bert. We have Zoe. Cats and dogs. They're all Sesame Street names. And now I'm shaking. So, yeah.
What about the what about the cross?
Cross?
Yeah, like it's like a necklace or a cross, but he's almost like,
in his pocket. He always carried it. He had actually two. One, the Catholic, the ones you would do beads. You're the Catholic. I can't think of rosary. And then he had a cross that he bought his girlfriend, but it was kind of chunky and she didn't wear it. So he kept it in his pocket, and they both were with his body.
Does he have a sister?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know where this message and what this means, but I feel like I want you to check it and don't take this. Well, am I saying it wrong now? So I would let her know that he checks in on her is what I would tell you. And I don't know if like they were close or she wonders or she's been feeling him lately, but I feel like he's been checking on her lately because she needs it. So will you reassure him that he's like popping in and checking on her is what I
I
would tell
sure
you.
will. Yeah, she's 12.
Mhm.
So when he left, she was 9. So yeah, and she knows what I'm all into, and we talk about it often.
Okay.
So it's
He wants to
probably
he wants to joke about you switching something. Did you like switch your shoes or switch your clothes or something? There's something you switched and he wants to like make fun of you for it. It feels like clothing, but he's telling me I'm not getting it correctly. Um, what did you switch? But it's fun. It's not, this isn't like serious. I don't know if he was a jokester, but this is coming across like, tell her it's funny about how she switched this. And it's something to do with shoes, I think. Did you switch or mix up the shoes? It's hard to, I know I'm not getting it right because when I get a message, I feel very confident about it. This feels a little
right.
like I'm not relaying it properly.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but him and I had that kind of relationship. You know, he'd make fun of me and in a good
uh,
and cute way. So
did you
it,
did you buy your daughter a Switch or a gaming system?
no.
Okay, because it just came to my mind like a Switch is the name of like a Nintendo. So I was wondering. So to give you an example, everyone, I always use this as an example, but one time I'm seeing a Caramello bar and I'm channeling this person. I had no idea what we couldn't figure it out. So I have to figure out like what are we trying to do? 20 minutes later, we finally realized that it's her ex-husband and he has a daughter from another marriage. Her name is Carmela. So if they,
Oh,
they'll show me different things. So if I get the Switch, I was wondering Nintendo has a Switch and I thought that maybe you just bought your
right.
daughter a gaming set. Now, did they play? Because he makes me feel like this is more on the right track. Did they play video games a lot together? Because I just got goosebumps.
Yeah, he had all the old systems. He used to collect them. You know, the original, all those when I was a teenager, 20s. So yeah, he did. He used to lay on the hallway with her in a little Barbie TV and play all those old video games.
Okay.
So that could be part of it. But I'm trying to think of the switch, like
No,
something recently.
yeah, don't overthink it. I think that
Yeah.
that's where you wanted me to go with that. It felt a little bit more um, on target when I talked about sister. Who's Max or Matthew?
Max, there's a Max, child friend of his.
You still
Max.
keeping? Have you reached out to him?
I mean, he came around a bit. His parents just moved to the upper Michigan, so I don't know where Max is actually right now.
Okay, that would be
But
also
he keeps in touch with our family from time
okay.
to time.
Two things that may be a piggybacking message about the switch or the change. I don't know, but I would tell you that, and this is for all the parents that are still on here. This comes through a lot. I feel like it would be a benefit for you just to reach out to him. Was he friends with your son?
Yes.
To reach out and almost like I gave this guy Daniel to say his name. I mean, Max isn't very common. That's why I end
No.
up saying Max or Matthew because sometimes it comes through like that. But I feel like he's like, please tell him I said hi or have mom reach out to him. And what I'll tell all you parents on here is that happens a lot. And one thing I tell parents is your children had friends. Those friends, when you reach out to them, it means the world to them. They're in pain. Oh my gosh, I get emotional. They're in pain too. So you're like the mom of their friend who passed away. And so those phone calls not only help you, it helps them. Though I've done, like I said, probably 50%, 40 to 50% of my readings are for parents who've lost children. And that message comes through a lot. Reach out to your friends' friends. They're hurting too, and they're probably closest to connection to their friend. So please reach out to Max. I would even go far as to say, oh, so are you talking about the girlfriend? So he just showed me the cross again. So I mean, do you want me to? So I said to him in my mind, do you want me to tell her to reach out to the girlfriend too? But it's like yes and yes. So I don't know if there's an extra cross that you can give, but I would give one to maybe Max if he was a close enough friend, and or reach out to the girlfriend because that's what you said in the beginning jogged my mind when he showed me that to reach out to her too because whether it was a girlfriend, an ex-girlfriend, or whatever, it would be beneficial for that person, that woman, girl, to have a call from her friend who passed away's mother, that probably means the world to them too, even if it didn't end well. Or you have some, some of the people on here, they had some friends that may have been partly responsible, had to do with the passing. They want you to reach out and forgive and have that relationship with them, because it means the world to them. And I think I got emotional because I feel like there's a lot of you that are on tonight that can really benefit from that phone call, giving that phone call to that friend of theirs. That means the world to them. They just think of them looking at their phone and it says, I forgot your son's name, Thomas's mom, or they probably have it in their phone, or they don't even know. That means the world. So I think that a lot of people needed to hear that tonight. Let me see if Thomas has anything else. When you look at do you read the Bible?
No, not really, no.
When you look at the clock and you think of him, I want you to ask him what book it is and look up the verse. I feel like and I don't know why, if you don't read it, and I don't know if he did, but then again, he did have the cross. Mom trying to, in fact, one of them is 3:13. So I don't know if it's Thessalonians. I don't know that part of that book of the Bible, but I would look up 3:13 for some reason, or maybe it's Corinthians 13, 1 through 3, 2 Corinthians, but it's one of those. But when you look at the clock and you think of him, it's like, Ma, I'm trying to get you a verse. Open that book and check it out. That's what it feels like.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
And he's showing me like the microwave clock, and I don't know if you have one, but that's like one of the ones that when you look at it, Ma, that's me. I'm like trying to communicate that with you.
Well, I've been getting repeat numbers. 333, I think it was, and I looked it up.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was kind of
Yeah, and I think that's why I get the 313 or the 3 whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got one more thing. Where are you connected with California? I know, I see your background. I think that's.
Oh no, that background actually just came with my phone with Zoom. It doesn't mean anything.
Good.
California, no.
Well, let me real quick. When I get a raisin, so as mediums we have symbols.
Oh yeah,
When I get a raisin, I either have to talk about California. I think you guys have watched me before. Some of my, or I have to talk about raisins or California. If you don't, so let's go California first. Is there a California trip coming up? Someone lives there?
No, nothing in California that I'm aware of. No.
How about the raisins? Because when I see
raisins,
yeah.
I mean, I like raisins, and he liked raisins, and I put them in
his lunch.
Breads and things, and we always have raisins in the house. But
that's not okay. So I always tell people like, yeah, that's nice, and it's great that you did that and you cook and you do that. But okay, so that is wrong. Okay, so no. So I was going to give you, okay, that's yes. So I was going to tell you like he wants to thank you for being a great mom, and yes, he does. But this is something different. So it's not that he doesn't thank you for being a great mom. This is different. Is there something new with the raisins? Did you just buy them? Did you just think of them? Did you just buy them?
His sister was eating craisins today.
No, that would come through the same way.
Today,
raisins.
in the den, she was eating craisins.
I got goosebumps right now. I know that sounds like crazy because like you said raisins and you said California, but you didn't say craisins. This is how it works. So is this the same sister we talked about before?
Yeah.
Remember the message I gave you? He pops in on her and checks on her.
Yeah.
He's with her today while she's eating the craisins, even though they're not raisins, because that's how it works. So make sure you know that he's with her during that time. And I think to a lot of parents, it's especially important this time of year to know that they're with you. And the logical, skeptical mind would say, well, he said, and I go over this for a reason, because, part of the reason why I do this is not only to help you heal and help you understand that there's life after life and help with grief, but it's to show you how it works. Like, I don't want to collect. I mean, I have to do it because it's a balance and collecting money, but like why I come on these groups for free, because it feels good to help you understand how you can connect to your loved ones. So you may develop a symbol or whatever, or you think of something and you're like, no, that can't be it. That can't be. But when I get, and again, it wasn't California, but we have symbols. But just today, she was eating craisins, and that's the person we were talking about earlier that he pops in on. That's like a circulating, validating message to let you know that he's with her. So, and that's what I call myself an evidential medium, because I don't know how often she eats craisins, but literally it was today, and it's just validation that he's still with her. I don't even say that. So I don't know if she needs new shoes or if she needs to get different shoes, but I almost feel like she's growing fast in the feet, and you need to get the new shoes, and you may get a new pair and she's outgrowing them. So he's very aware of her, needing new shoes and being part of her life. And he tells me to tell her, I don't know if she's there, but he says, don't forget what I always taught you or told you. And I don't know if he had this one saying or this one message, or I got goosebumps, and he kept repeating them to herself, but like, don't forget what I showed you, taught you, told you. And like, she'll instantly know when she hears that. Do you know what he's talking about?
Yes, and I actually bought her a necklace from him for Christmas with the saying on it. She didn't get it yet.
Oh, am I
She's
ruining a
gonna
surprise?
cry.
I'm ruining a
No,
surprise.
she doesn't know I'm talking to you.
What
But
is
it's when she was little, real little, he always would video her, and he had her sing a song. And it says, basically, she's sitting there, she's probably 2, and he's like, say it. And she goes, I'm a badass. And I found the necklace for her that says that, to be one, because, women need to be strong in this world and whatnot.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
yes, so that could be it. And
So
it just came.
this is twofold. This is one, make sure you tell her what I've always told her to do, which is ground, you don't have the big brother now, so maybe you do need to be even more of a badass, right? Number one. Number two, I know about what you did for her and what you're giving to her. And it literally, you said it just came today.
Yeah. Well, this week it came on just in time for Christmas, but I saw it and I was like, oh my God. And I don't usually give them gifts from Tommy, but I had to that one.
So he knows
Because she's
about
probably, she's going to cry and all, but
it's great.
it's totally him.
Yeah, that's perfect. Know that he knows about that, especially if it's the saying, right? I think that's what he said. Perfect.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
One last thing. I always have trouble cutting them off. He wants to keep going. He says she'll know. He likes what you're doing with your hair. I mean, it looks great to me.
Oh,
but whatever,
oh my God.
But whatever you change with it, he likes it. And I think that he would think that he wouldn't when he was here. So did you just color it, change it, cut it, you do something to it?
No, right now it's just up. But no, I've been white for quite a few years now. But
it looks blonde to me.
Yeah. Oh, it does. Well, no, it's all white, gray white. But yeah, he would comment on my hair. Me and him, we were real close that way. So.
Yeah, but I don't miss the message. Are you thinking of changing it? Did you wear it different recently? Did you because I feel like you say that, and that's
well,
not.
I've been thinking about doing something with it, so maybe that's.
Do you have an upcoming appointment?
No, but it's like kind of in that stage where I don't know what I'm doing with it. And where I work, it's like pull it up, put it back, clip it up, and it's like wear it down when I'm home. And so, yeah, I'm kind of like, what am I doing with this hair?
Okay. Well, I still feel it's weird. Logically, it makes no sense what I'm saying, but it still feels like I like what you did with your hair. Now, he may be saying, I don't know if you did something with his hair, but it comes, and maybe it's for your daughter, but he likes what it's done with the hair. That's what I would tell you. So if it's not you, it may be the daughter. Maybe she just changed it, or maybe it was with him with the service. I don't know, but I like what you did with the hair. That's what I would tell you. So.
Well, there's been every day I tell her to brush her hair because it's getting knots in the back. So it's constant. I'm always on her. Sarah, brush your hair. You're getting a knot. I'm going to cut it off. So that could be. Okay. That could be. Yeah. Again, his sister.
I always tell the person, feel it, right? You'll get the information, but what to do with it is on you. I like to get the validation to give you the most, but I think he's come through pretty strong today to let you know that he's okay and he's with you. And I think that slogan thing's pretty cool, especially if you just put it on a necklace for it. It's cool.
Yeah, very great. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And so Daniel, we're an hour and a half in. Do you want to put a wrap on it?
Oh yeah, I got to go prep for my class, but yeah, I'm hoping that even just doing one reading, I always tell people on my Monday nights, and Mark, if you don't mind, can I just share my book real quick? Would you mind?
Sure.
I don't mean to put you on the spot or anything, but for those that don't know, I wrote a book called Why Are We Here? It's about life. It's about forgiveness. It's about mediumship and how it works. There's a chapter in here about my dad and how I've communicated with him. And I think, Mark, you've had the same experience, some of the similar experiences, but how I've communicated with him since he's passed. There's reincarnation. I have a whole chapter on religion where I speak about Christianity and mediumship. So it's a lot and a little, right? It's available on Audible. It's only $10 and it's available on Amazon. It's 14. And it's called Why Are We Here? And a lot of people that read it say it's an easy read. Check out the reviews. And it also opens you up a little bit. Sometimes these signs are hard to like understand. So as an average person, it helps you as a parent who lost a child to connect with them in a way that maybe you didn't think of before. So, you know, pick it up if you'd like. It's a pretty easy read. And there's even some testimonials in there. 3 or 4 of them are from parents who lost children that had readings with me, and reading through those or listening to them in the Audible will kind of help you, hopefully help you in a way that, you know, other books maybe couldn't have, or will just help you in some way.
Cool. Well, I just typed in, sorry, we couldn't get to everybody or your questions tonight, but I hope, but by virtue of hearing what Daniel just shared with Sharon, that will touch you. So even if it's not for you, you'll see the evidence through what you just witnessed there. And hopefully some of the other dialogue was good and helpful to you. So did you have any other final thoughts you want to share before we shut down?
No, just thank you for the opportunity. Sorry I talk so fast. My heart is with all of you. I have 3 little kids, and you know, I think as I continue to grow, I will continue to be the choice. I feel honored from the other side of souls that passed young in this lifetime to connect them with their parents. So I will always do work with you guys. I love the group. The energy is always great. And I could see all your faces smiling, and I'm just, you know, sending you a lot of love, because I know this, I don't know, I can imagine that this time of year has got to be quite difficult. So pay attention, educate yourself, read, talk to your loved ones, your children, like they're still here, because they really, really are. They really are. As much as it's hard to believe or sounds cliche, they're with you literally all the time. They can hear your thoughts. They can hear your prayers. And last thing, with Thomas's mom, sorry, I can't remember your name. When I get something about the animals, and remember I talked about the cartoons and they're all named like that, pay attention to your pets, because a lot of times they'll be looking in the middle of nowhere, or they'll run around and bark or do something. They are very sensitive to the energy of your children, especially. So pay attention to that. So Thomas's mom, I wouldn't be shocked if she says, oh, the cat or the dog just all of a sudden goes over there and sits or whines or barks. They often can be seen by your pet. So just pay attention to that.
Okay, well, with that said, I'm going to wrap it up. I'm not an expert on Zoom like Elizabeth, so I'm trying to unmute people. But I'm unmuting you one at a time. So if you want to say goodbye or thank you on your way out, go ahead. This is a slow process here because I don't know how to do everybody at once.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very helpful.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Daniel.
Hey, Sherry, I want you to give your husband a shoulder rub tonight. He needs a little shoulder, something with the shoulders. So make sure you give it to, I don't know if you have.
He had shoulder surgery.
Okay, make sure you rub those shoulders. I don't know what I'm not good with male, female, but I'd say your son, I don't know, wants to have him rub it. Don't quote whether it's son or daughter, but I think like they want you to just give him a nice little shoulder rub tonight.
Nice parting message, huh?
Yes.
Thank you.
If it comes through, I'd say it. We're channels, right? You know that, Mark.
Yeah,
Have a nice holiday.
take care.
All right,
Thank you so much.
Claire,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank
you.
you. That was
With that,
wonderful.
yeah, Cindy, Shannon.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
All right,
Bye.
much love.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Andrea.
Gracias. Muchas
Thank
gracias.
you.
Say
No.
All right, much love. Mark, we'll talk soon, buddy. Thank you for having me.
Take care.
It's an
Good
honor.
night.
That was cool.